I was thinking this week about something that took place in my life when I was about, 7 or 8 years old. I was shopping with my mother in the basement of a store known as W.T. Grant, something like a Woolworths store, and you may remember when you were younger, did the Woolworths here have a basement? Going into the basement, the bargains were sometimes there, and I don't remember what my mother was looking at, but we went by a display of rose bushes. There were nothing fancy. They were these bushes wrapped in aluminum foil with just a little bit of a branch sticking out from it. But behind it was a beautiful full color display of what these roses were going to look like. And I wanted one of those rose bushes and let my mother know how much I wanted one of those rose bushes. They were only 29 cents. I guess that was bigger money in those days, but 29 cents. And my mother said, "You have your own money. If you want it, you buy it." And so I carefully counted out my 2 dimes and my nickel and my 4 pennies. Tax wasn't until 40 cents in those days where we were living, and so not even any tax on it, 29 cents. And on the way home, I insisted that we stop by the public library, and I checked out a book on the care of rose bushes. And I read that book, and I carefully planted my rose bush, and I watered it, and I gave it plant food, and I watched it, and I talked to it. And my little 29-cent rose bush that my mother said would never do anything, well, the rose bush and I proved her wrong. It grew. Now, I had planted it by the picket fence, and it just grew, and I carefully attached it to the picket fence so it wouldn't draw. Oh, my goodness, you should have seen those amazing rose blossoms. In a couple of years, it was a huge bush, and neighbors would come to look at it. Now, in my book on roses, I had read how you made a cutting off a rose bush. And so I said to the neighbors, "Would you like a cutting of my rose bush?" And they were amazed that this young boy knew how to do such things. But I did, and I gave them cuttings. And I told them how they should take care of the bushes. And they very kindly nodded their heads and said, yes, they understood. You got to humor a little boy sometimes, you know. And they planted their rose bushes. And I would come by to see that everything was going well, and it was. And within a few years, the south end of Fulton Avenue was ablaze with magnificent red roses. What a transformation it was for our neighborhood. From one foil-wrapped stick of a rose plant to magnificent rose bushes everywhere. You know, my friends, our faith is something like that. In the same way that I tendered and nurtured that 29-cent rose bush, if we tend and nurture our faith, it will grow from cheap aluminum foil to something quite magnificent and quite beautiful.